From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief Emeka Anyaoku makes a rare appearance at the presidential villa, leads patriots to see President Bola Tinubu, says it's time to convene a National Constituent Assembly and a referendum. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo demands end to corruption in the NNPCL, also condemns moral decadence among citizens, says if nothing is done, the nation may drift into more crisis. Civil Society Group Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR, marched to the seat of government in Alausa, Lagos, asked government to investigate killing of protesters, tackles the police on handling of protests. And Benue community thrown into confusion as bandits kill 30 persons, abducting others, heightening fears in the state.
In our business news, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group says ineffectiveness of social intervention programs due to lack of transparency calls for inclusive monitoring.
On sports, women's 100 meters hurdles world champion Tobi Amuso bows out in the semi-finals of the Paris Games as Team Nigeria's wait for Olympic medals continue on day 14.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, feels scarcity bites harder in Abuja as residents spend hours in long queues.
And in international news from London, Russia's military says it's continuing to repel a Ukrainian cross-border incursion into the western Kursk region, a surprise attack now in its fourth day.
President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed his determination to do whatever is necessary for the good and happiness of the country and her people. He said this while meeting a group of eminent Nigerians, the Patriots, at the State House. The group proposed the convening of a National Constituent Assembly to produce a new draft constitution for the country. Our State House correspondent, Lanre Lasisi, now reports.
Seated in the council chamber are members of the Patriot Group of eminent Nigerians, led by former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief Emeka Anyaoku. They're here for a meeting with the president. Also in attendance are some members of the executive. Once the president arrives, the meeting commences. According to the group, the present governance system of Nigeria needs to be restructured for a truly federal system. They propose a presidential executive bill with 2 items.
First, the convening of a National Constituent Assembly with the mandate to produce a draft People's Democratic Constitution. The Constituent Assembly should be of directly elected individuals, elected on non-political party basis, possibly 3 individuals per state and 1 from the Federal Capital Territory.
The Constituent Assembly will consider the 1960 and 1963 constitutions, the recommendations of the 2014 National Conference, and other national conferences. The other item is for a legislation to enable a national referendum.
The draft constitution produced by the Constituent Assembly, as I said, should be put to a national referendum, and if approved, should then be signed by the President as the genuine, legitimate Nigerian people's constitution.
The group also suggested that the government at the federal and state levels dialogue with leaders of the recent protests, and that law enforcement agencies avoid using lethal weapons while managing protests. The president was direct in his reply.
I definitely want to assure you that whatever is necessary, I'll put happiness and good governance in the heart of all Nigerians. This is what I will do.
The president has a priority and he's not afraid to state it.
I'm still preoccupied with thinking and tinkering with the economic reform. That's my first priority. Once I get that reform in place as soon as possible, then I look at other options.
The meeting ends with group photographs to mark the visit. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
In reaction to the calls for a review of the nation's constitution, a former governor of Kano State, Ibrahim Shekarau, says rather than looking to make changes to the constitution, the focus should be on the leaders who implement the tenets of the document. Mr. Shekarau also criticized the Buhari and Tinubu administrations for blaming their predecessors for the nation's problems and is of the opinion that the government could have better handled the issues leading up to the End Bad Governance protests. He was speaking on our political program, Politics Today.
No constitution on earth, no any written law on earth is perfect. And hence our constitution, no matter what changes you make, with time, circumstances do dictate what to adjust, what to change, what to remove, what to add, what to cancel, what to improve upon. So while I agree that the Constitution is full of some discrepancies where there are disagreements, which were discovered through the process of our operation, but I think it's not totally the issue of the Constitution. No matter how perfect the rules and the regulations or content of the Constitution are, it still boils down to the operators of the Constitution. There is hardly any new government that does not inherit problems. There is no government living that will not leave behind issues. This blame game should not be there. Buhari spent almost 2/3 of his time blaming PDP government. And if Tinubu will come and start blaming Buhari, it's not the issue. There are always going to be problems on ground. What is important? What are you doing to address the problem? The protesters gave government almost 4 weeks' notice. If I give you notice that I was coming to fight you, and you went to sleep, and then that's your problem. So I think there was enough time for the government. I don't know, I haven't the details. Probably they were doing a lot of backyard measures, but the public were not carried along.
To security matters now, 30 persons have been reported killed in Ayati village of Okum local government area in Benue State by bandits who stormed the farming community in the evening of Thursday, August the 8th. Speaking to Channels Television's correspondent on the phone, an eyewitness identified as Mr. Shima Ayati says more persons may have been killed, but only 30 corpses have been recovered, as over 60 bandits stormed the village of Ayati, shooting anything in sight. Mr. Ayati says the bandits were hunting people from one house to another, shooting and killing. Some died on the spot, while others died on their way to the hospital in Zakibiam. Ayati village is one of the many farming communities in the Sankera axis of Benue State, comprising Katsina, Logo, and Ukum local government areas. This is the second attack on Ayati village within 1 month, where 6 persons were killed, leading to last month's violent protests in Zakibiam. Meanwhile, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Ali has condemned the killing of unarmed and innocent citizens of the state by bandits at Ayati village, where over 30 persons were reported killed on Thursday, expressing deep sadness over the news of another unprovoked attack on Ayati settlement in Ukum local government area. The governor, in a statement issued by his chief press secretary, Tersu Kula, however, makes a firm determination to continue to use lawful procedures to protect Benue people, particularly Ukum, which has been on the front line of attacks with the attendant food crisis due to the impact of insecurity in the Sankera axis. Governor Alia, while commiserating with families that lost their loved ones in the attack, urges security agencies to step up surveillance operations and nip the frequency of the attacks on Ukum communities, noting that his administration will continue to explore both discreet and open measures with a view to ensuring that Sankera retraces her path of peace and justice served to those behind the attack. Members of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, the CDHR, have embarked on a street procession in honor of those the group claimed were killed by Nigerian security forces during the End Bad Governance demonstrations across the country. The group, which did not comment on the alleged invasion of their premises by the police, called on President Bola Tinubu and his administration to reverse all anti-people policies responsible for the present hardship witnessed in the country.
Across the country, many of these protesters were killed not because they were violent, but because they were demonstrating their right to peaceful assembly against the condition of hunger and hardship that is going on in this country. We are here to show solidarity with them, to say we stand by them, to say we demand justice for their killings, to demand the immediate sack of the Inspector General of Police.
The right to protest is an inalienable democratic right that we are not ready to surrender. Not even with the threat of Oro, threat of arrest, threat of death, threat of imprisonment will make us to relinquish these rights. The democracy that we are enjoying today, the democracy that these elements are enjoying today was not served to us a la carte.
We are saying enough is enough to bad governance.
Yes.
Democracy is supposed to be a government of the people, for the people and by the people. But as it stands right now, even our right to protest is being what? It's being restricted. And it's not supposed to be so. It's not supposed to be so. President Tinubu, when Goodluck Jonathan was there, you let protest yourself. So why are you restricting us? Why are you arresting us?
The Lagos State Police Public Relations Officer Benjamin Hundeyin has, however, reacted to the alarm raised by the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Now, the Lagos PPRO says they were aware of the group's meeting, had access to them, even as the police officers were at the premises to ensure law and order.
I'm happy that there are videos circulating about the presence of the police there. Nowhere would you see the police preventing anybody from getting access into the building. Yes, we were there to make sure that there was no breakdown of law and order, and the people had access to their building. They entered the building and they had their symposium successfully. At the end of their symposium, they came out and the police were still there. So whatever they are saying is their own interpretation. The fact remains that they had access to their building, they had their symposium, and they left without being hindered. Not one person was touched, not one person was arrested. As long as you can abide by the dictates of the court order, rest assured that we're going to give you maximum security, and we'll ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order.
Meanwhile, the Nigeria police has admitted that it conducted a high-profile operation at the National Secretariat of the Nigeria Labour Congress, located in the Central Business District, Abuja. It said the operation was aimed at apprehending a prime suspect, a foreign national implicated in numerous criminal activities across Nigeria and other African countries. A statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, said that the NLC Secretariat was not the focus of the operation, which was targeted at a rented shop within the building used by the suspect as a front for his criminal activities in Nigeria. The police explained that the operation had no connection with the NLC, its secretariat, staff, or leadership. In part two, after the break, the Kano state government files fresh charges against former Governor Abdullahi Ganduje over alleged fraud. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 on Channels Television coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief Emeka Anyaoku makes a rare appearance at the presidential villa, tells President Bola Tinubu it's time to convene a National Constituent Assembly. Civil Society Group Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR, marched to the seat of government in Alausa, Lagos, asked government to investigate killing of protesters, tackles the police on handling of protests. Benue community thrown into confusion as bandits kill 30 persons, abducting others, heightening fears in the state. And Russia's military has said it is continuing to repel a Ukrainian cross-border incursion into the western Kursk region. Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State has announced plans to rebuild the Katagum Local Government Secretariat and other government facilities destroyed by violent protesters during the End Bad Governance protest in the state. He made the announcement during an assessment of the areas affected during the demonstrations. Meanwhile, residents of Katsina State are recounting their losses following the violence that broke out during the protest in the state.
The headquarters of Katagum local government area is one of the epicenters of violence during the End Bad Governance protests in Bauchi State. Normalcy is gradually returning to the area following the relaxation of the 24-hour curfew imposed by the state government. Governor Bala Mohammed is in the area to assess the level of damage. Half of the newly renovated local government secretariat was affected by fire. Vehicles were damaged and houses were looted, including the residence of the former deputy governor, Bala Tella. A newly built Islamic center was also vandalized.
So it would appear we have to go back to the drawing board and redesign and rebuild this secretariat, inshallah. And we will do it because it is the seat of administration of the local government, and it is the second biggest town in Bauchi State.
Governor Mohammed also commiserated to the Emir of Katagum, emphasizing that the protest served as a wake-up call for government at all levels. The Emir makes a case for improved security in the area. In Katsina State, residents are holding Fidua prayer for some of those who lost their lives during the protests. One of them is 21-year-old Shafiu Muntari, a resident of Haruna Meiwada Street at Yara community in Katsina metropolis. Some of the residents claim they sustained injuries during the protest, and they are appealing to the government to ensure justice is served.
There was pandemonium in our community. Children, pregnant women, and other vulnerable groups were all affected by the tear gas and shooting. We are not happy.
The spokesman of the State Police Command maintains that no life was lost during the protest in Katsina State, promising to investigate the reports of injuries.
The village head of Gefe community of Kufana Chiefdom in Kajuru local government area of Kaduna State has been killed by bandits along with 2 other people. Although police authorities in Kaduna State are yet to confirm the attack, a community leader, Silas Musa, told Channels Television that the bandits invaded Gefe village at about 12 a.m. on Thursday and went straight to the residence of the village head, Emmanuel Idan, and another local, and shot them to death. During the operation, 14 locals were abducted by the bandits and taken to an unknown destination. The community leader also said that the bandits attacked Maro community, also in Kajuru local government, where they shot a middle-aged man on both legs, who later died while being taken to the hospital for treatment. In a similar vein, a journalist's wife and 3 children were abducted by bandits at the Keke community of Millennium City in Chikun local government area of Kaduna State. Now to Kano State, where the state government has filed a fresh charge against the former governor, who is the current national chairman of the APC, Abdullahi Ganduje, and 3 others in the alleged 57 billion naira fraud case. The state is accusing Mr. Ganduje and his commissioner for local government, Muritala Garo, and 2 others of criminally diverting 57.4 billion naira through several personal accounts of local government cashiers and other personal and corporate accounts. Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State has denied taking part in the 570 billion naira the federal government claims to have given to the state governments. President Bola Tinubu, while addressing Nigerians in the nationwide broadcast during the End Bad Governance protests against hunger and hardship, said more than 570 billion naira has been released to the 36 states to help expand livelihood support to the people. However, in a newsletter personally signed by Governor Makinde and shared on his X handle, the governor said Oyo State was not in the know of such a grant. Responding to a citizen who asked questions concerning the funds, the governor said, and I quote, "The federal government did not give Oyo State any money. We were reimbursed funds, 5.98 billion naira in the first instance and 822 million naira in the second instance. We invested in the 3 result areas of NG Cares, which includes inputs distribution to smallholder farmers within our state. In fact, when the World Bank saw our model for the distribution of inputs preceded by biometric capturing of beneficiary farmers, they adopted it as the NG Cares model." End quote. Governor Makinde's denial comes on the heels of controversies that greeted the nationwide hunger and hardship protests. So let's now head to the nation's capital, and Gloria Umezuke is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Gloria. Over to you.
Thank you, Ayo. Here in the nation's capital, residents have expressed displeasure at the incessant fuel queues that have characterized the Federal Capital Territory since the removal of fuel subsidy by President Bola Tinubu last year. The current situation is in its 2nd week, and commuters are lamenting the impact of the scarcity. Our correspondent, Dele Omoyeni, reports.
The current scarcity of premium motor spirits in the nation's capital is adversely affecting the commute of persons and services as residents waste productive hours of the day on long fuel queues. As is always the case, black market operators somehow find a way to access the product, and they are making brisk business. Visibly frustrated residents share their experience.
I've been here since 7, that is about 3 hours ago. And we don't still have hope. There is no hope yet. As you can see that we are still on the queue. And the queue is very long. So we are praying for better Nigeria every day. There is hunger everywhere. The food, you cannot even went to market and buy something. Everything is high. And we taxi driver, before when you buy even 5,000 for, you can make something good out of it. But now, even if you buy 15,000, before you get the 15,000, the fuel will almost gone. Driving is what I'm doing for a living. Please, our leaders, our government should look and help us so that the fuel will reduce, even the food items, we can be able to afford. At least me, I'm a father of 3 children now. At times with 6,000 is hardly for me to be able to feed my family in a whole day.
Oh God, the thing is biting us hard. My business don't collapse. I don't know how to describe this country again. Make government today make the livelihood easy for a common person.
Other motorists give likely insights into the course of the situation.
The people that are doing the strike will not affected, so all the facets, all the business life of Nigeria, the protesters rather, the people that are bringing the fuel, for 4 days now, there was no discharge. So we expect this kind of chaotic environment because everybody wants to buy. This is the second day that I came to the office. For almost 3 days now, we've been staying at home. So you expect something like this. Probably before the next 3 days, things will calm down.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited had earlier assured of a steady supply to all its stations, hoping to resolve the tightness very soon. Daily Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
The Abia State Governor, Dr. Alex Otti, has expressed his administration's readiness to take immediate action to arrest the menace of gully erosion around the erosion-ravaged area along Agbo Hill in Aba, the commercial nerve center of the state. Speaking to newsmen during an on-the-spot assessment of the gully erosion site, he directed the general manager of Greater Aba Development Authority to see him for immediate mobilization of experienced engineers and contractors to find a lasting solution to the problem. He expressed regrets that erosion has dealt a deadly blow in the area and, if not controlled, will affect all the buildings around the area.
Well, it's very unfortunate that the erosion has dealt a deadly blow on this area. And the way it's going, if it's not controlled immediately, it would not only affect the buildings around here, but then the opposite side of the road that we are building. In fact, we should be completing that road any moment from now. So we need to come very quickly, and I've given the instructions to the general manager of Greater Aba Development Agency so that we find a solution to this. We'll solve the problem in the next few weeks, God willing. By the time we engage with contractors, because it's not going to be done by direct level, we need people who understand what to do. But I believe that it's something that we should deal with before the end of this year.
Still ahead on the news at 10, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group says failure of social intervention programs owing to lack of transparency calls for inclusive monitoring. That's some business news. Please join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. In Benin City, the Edo State capital, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has made a seizure of hard drugs as part of efforts to curtail illicit drug trafficking in the state. It is believed that this will put a massive dent in the business of selling drugs as well as the use of narcotics. Our correspondent, Osaze Obaze, reports.
The prevalence of any drug use in Nigeria is estimated at 14.4% of 14.3 million people aged between 15 and 64 years. The extent of drug use in Nigeria is comparatively high when compared with the 2016 global annual prevalence of any drug use of 5.6% among the adult population. That's according to the National Bureau of Statistics.
We have the parks and the curating, we have the hotels.
The Edo State commander of the NDLEA, Carlis Alumuna, in a press briefing at the NDLEA headquarters in Benin, says the mandate of the agency is to prevent hard drugs from making its way into markets and the streets.
Since His Excellency, Brigadier General M.B. Marwa retired, CON OFR, since he took over as the Chairman Chief Executive of the agency, there has been unprecedented, redoubled effort on prevention in all its ramifications. He has added War Against Drug Abuse, WADA, initiative, which is to sensitize, educate, and create massive awareness on the destructive nature of drug substance abuse.
It reiterates the determination of the command in the war against narcotics by displaying the most recent busts kept in the warehouse, including those found with a motorcycle courier who supplies hard drugs.
We have arrested 148 male suspects, 72 female suspects. That's a total of 220 suspects between February and now. There's a popular place that is very notorious called Iyama. We have arrested several persons there, pocket dealers and users.
Commander Lumuna commended the state government for their continued support. Like Oliver Twist, is still asking for more help in any way, shape, and form to help the agency carry out its functions effectively. Usaze Obaze, Channels Television News.
Well, that's it on the nation's capital. For more on the news at 10, it's over now to Will Ibong in Lagos for business news.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Gloria. Lack of accountability and transparency in the social intervention efforts of the federal government is the reason for its ineffectiveness. The Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, Dr. Tayo Aduloju, who was a guest on Business Incorporated, is asking that the monitoring structure should be more inclusive.
We are in a democracy, so participatory monitoring and evaluation frameworks is crucial. And we have to work together to make this happen. And I think that our government colleagues and actors and partners need to understand that to co-create social outcomes, they can't do it by themselves. So, for example, a rice distribution should have had a model, a framework where the accountability, monitoring, and reporting mechanism is in place. The dashboards on distribution on a daily, weekly basis should be available. Right? And so we know the citizens that got and the citizens that didn't. Okay? This is an important part of democratic governance. Where there is no involvement equals no commitment. No commitment equals no ownership. No ownership means it's the government's thing versus everybody's thing. It should be by now possible for us to see a dashboard on distribution, both of palliatives, of social investments, of conditional cash transfers, of manufacturer receiving 75 billion, of nano entrepreneurs receiving 125. All these have to be visible.
Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, Mr. Ekperikpe, says Nigerians will soon begin to have cheaper transportation options as the federal government launches an app to partner commercial transportation operators in the rideshare conversion incentive program. The minister will let other important personalities to the launch also reveal that the company is on track to achieve the cut in carbon emission targets.
The rideshare sector is a vital part of our urban transportation system, providing flexible, cost-effective mobility solutions to millions of Nigerians, particularly our youth. However, the rising cost of traditional fuel have posed a significant challenge to both drivers and passengers, often leading to higher fares and reduced access to affordable transportation. The CNG Conversion Incentive Program, in conjunction with the My CNG app, is a bold response to these challenges by offering 50% discount for rideshare drivers upon sign-up and registering through the My CNG app. We are not only making CNG a more viable option, but also easing the financial burdens on drivers.
Now, outside our shores, UK investment platform Hargreaves Lansdown has agreed to a takeover offer worth £5.4 billion from a consortium of investors, including CVC Group. The consortium, which also includes Abu Dhabi's Sovereign Wealth Fund and Nordic Capital, has confirmed this offer as final. Under the deal, Hargreaves Lansdown shareholders will receive 1,110 pence per share plus a 30 pence dividend. Meanwhile, the company's share prices rose by about 2.2% in early trade on Friday, following the news. Back home at the domestic equities market, positive sentiments were sustained in the final trading day of the week. Let's get more details from Mini John Mekwa.
Thank you so much, Will. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, it does seem like MTN Nigeria is the stock for the week. two major gains in two trading sessions, even though we had that drop, the other day. But MTN Nigeria today gained 1 naira 80 kobo and closed at 199 naira 80 kobo. So for a second time this week, it moves the market to the green part of it. And then we're looking at the sectors. We see banking also contributed to that. Almost 2% up. That's what the figures did and drove the counter up 1.93%. Consumer goods did not do badly. We see Dangote Sugar, Honeywell Flour, International Breweries. Unilever has been in the news for some good reasons this week, and so are they contributed to that? Oil and gas has gone up and is staying up. No thanks to Eternal Oil and O&O. And so at the close of trade, we saw 278 billion naira added to the market cap. But we are not yet at 56. We haven't regained that back. It's a 0.50% green market at the close of the trade. And we leave the ball on the floor of the exchange.
And meanwhile, in the U.S., the S&P 500 has wiped out the losses it recorded in Monday's rout. Let's check out the numbers for that index and other major equities around the world.
Thank you so much, Will. A passenger plane has crashed in the Brazilian state of Sao Paulo, killing all 62 people on board. The twin-engine turboprop aircraft was flying from Cascavel in the southern state of Paraná to the main airport in Sao Paulo city when it came down in Vinhedo. Here's Simon Pierce with other international news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Russia's military has said it is continuing to repel a Ukrainian cross-border incursion into the western Kursk region, a surprise attack now in its 4th day. The Russian Defense Ministry said Ukraine had lost more than 280 military personnel in the past 24 hours, a claim that has not been independently verified. Reports suggest that Ukrainian troops are operating more than 10 kilometers inside Russia, the deepest cross-border advance by Kyiv since Moscow launched a full-scale invasion in February 2022. Ukraine has not openly admitted the incursion, but President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday that Moscow must feel the consequences for its invasion. Meanwhile, at least 9 people have been killed and dozens injured in a Russian strike on Ukraine's Kostiantynivka region.
As you know, we have been supportive of Ukraine as they are defending themselves against Russia's aggression. We think that is obviously important to do as we talk about democracy and freedom. And so we're going to continue to do that. And they're going to take actions, right? Common sense actions to certainly to protect themselves from these attacks.
Carlos Puigdemont, the exiled ex-Catalan leader, has evaded a massive police manhunt and fled Spain. Spanish authorities launched a large manhunt for Mr. Puigdemont after he made a shock return to Spain, giving a short speech to crowds in Barcelona before disappearing. The 61-year-old is wanted by Spain on charges linked to a failed bid for Catalan independence in 2017. Although reporters tried and failed to get hold of him, his party's Secretary-General said Mr. Puigdemont is now back in Belgium, where he lives. The United States, Egypt and Qatar have released a joint statement calling on Israel and Hamas to resume negotiations over a ceasefire and hostage release deal. The statement said the 3 nations had forged a framework agreement that had only the details of implementation left to conclude. Israel said it would send negotiators to the proposed talks, which are penciled in for the 15th of August in Doha or Cairo. Hamas did not immediately respond. In a joint statement, the 3 nations invited Israel and Hamas to restart talks on the 15th of August to close all remaining gaps and commence implementation of the deal without further delay. ABC News has said it will host the first debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on the 10th of September. The network confirmed the showdown in a post on X, formerly Twitter, after Mr. Trump said on Thursday that he would be open to debating his Democratic rival multiple times before the November election. Ms. Harris confirmed that she will attend the ABC debate while at an event in Michigan and said later that she would be open to additional debates. A U.S. court has convicted a Mozambican former finance minister over a 10-year-old conspiracy that triggered the worst economic crisis in his home country since independence. Manuel Chang was found guilty of accepting payoffs through US banks for approving secret loans. The loans were intended to pay for a fleet of tuna fishing ships and other projects, leading to the affair being dubbed the tuna bond scandal. But the loans were plundered, leaving Mozambique $2 billion in debt. Chang was arrested in South Africa in 2018 and extradited to the US the following year to face fraud and money laundering charges. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has signed a decree blocking access to the social media platform X for 10 days following a public spat with owner Elon Musk. The two men have traded barbs since Mr. Maduro was declared the winner of last month's disputed presidential election. Mr. Musk has described the Venezuelan leader as a dictator and a clown, while Mr. Maduro has accused Mr. Musk of inciting hatred, fascism and civil war. Recent weeks have seen anti-government protests flare up over the election result, and hundreds of people have been arrested by Venezuela's security forces. And CCTV footage has captured the moment a dramatic explosion took place on a cargo ship docked at a busy port in eastern China. Earlier, Chinese state media said an explosion was reported at the port and shockwaves were felt a kilometre away. Taiwanese shipping firm Yangming Marine Transport Corporation said one of its cargo ships caught fire at China's Ningbo Jiaoshan port. No casualties or injuries have been reported after the blast. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. So let's bring you up to speed with what's happening in the beautiful city of Paris as far as the Olympics are concerned. Kelly Giga is standing by for the latest in sports news.
Many thanks indeed, Ayotunde. So after 14 days of Olympic events, Team Nigeria has yet to record any medal, with the latest disappointing result in the women's 100 meters hurdles as world champion record holder Tobi Amuso failed to make the finals. This report takes a look at the country's performance at the Paris Olympic Games so far.
The vision is to surpass, records that were earlier set. Not about the Olympics of last 4 years, but we're taking it from the Olympics of 1996, which remains our best ever performance.
That was the dream of the Minister of Sports Development, Mr. John Eno, prior to the Paris Olympic Games. However, the country's push to surpass the Atlanta 1996 record, which is Team Nigeria's best outing so far, where the country settled for 2 gold, 1 silver and 3 bronze medals, may not be anytime soon. With the ongoing games now in day 14, Team Nigeria's medal hopes, even in athletics, which has been Nigeria's most successful Olympic sport, yielding 14 medals, 2 gold, 5 silver and 7 bronze, has been dashed, as all 14 male athletes and 18 female athletes registered for track and field events have all bowed out. A breakdown of the competition so far shows that Team Nigeria has crashed out of the badminton singles, women's basketball, boxing, canoeing, cycling, women's football, table tennis singles, and taekwondo. Meanwhile, 4 of the 5 registered wrestlers for Nigeria have all been eliminated.
I prepare the best as I can. As an unsponsored athlete, it's very difficult. Most of the time, I work full-time as an engineer, so tackling working full-time and additional training, it takes quite a bit of time away from my focus with training because I have to balance those 2 acts.
At the London 2012 Games, Team Nigeria failed to record any medals in all 8 sports it competed in, and it appears the Paris Games is heading in the same direction. Some sports enthusiasts and administrators are preferring what could be solutions.
First of all, if you look at the Tokyo Olympics and the Rio Olympics, you try and compare them to what has happened this year, you can say that the performances have not been very good. I think what it tells us is that Africa as a whole needs to do a little bit more in terms of development. the time and age of relying on people like Aruna Quadri, Omar Asa, and co. seems to be gone past. I don't think Aruna will have another Olympics after this.
We should now learn to domesticate certain sports in certain regions in Nigeria. And when this riverine area can produce swimmers, the northern ends can produce long-distance marathon athletes. When I look at the kind of sports that other countries are winning medals, we can actually do well in those sports.
Many Nigerians will be hoping that the lessons from the current games will be put to good use in the preparation for the most glamorous sporting event in the world.
What a dominant display there by Shakari Richardson. That does it for us here on Sports. Thanks for watching. I'm Kelly Egiga. Is back to you, Ayotunde.
Thank you, Kelly. And the main news again. The former Commonwealth Secretary General, Chief Emeka Anyaoku, today made a rare appearance at the presidential villa, where he told President Bola Tinubu that it's now time to convene a National Constituent Assembly. And Russia's military has said it is continuing to repel a Ukrainian cross-border incursion into the western Kursk region. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Have a great weekend and please stay safe.